Block Ellert. I can't thank you enough for being part of Dash's Breaking Ground podcast. You and I go back a long way, but
We do.
instead of me kind of sharing with the audience your stunning career, I'd like you to kind of tee it up and take us back from the early days in New York to the present day.
That's a lot of years, Len, but it's my pride and joy. In fact, I spoke to my business partner today, who I hadn't spoken to in a very long time, Lori, who says hello, by the way. I think starting from New York, it's a great story. I began my real estate career as a sales coordinator, receptionist, basically sales administrator for a company called the Marketing Directors. I worked for a prominent developer. I was fortunate to work for a company that was very much promote from within. So they quickly encouraged me to get a real estate license, and I was going to college in the evening. So it was a lot of, daytime work, but it was wonderful. I had a good experience seeing all of the salespeople interact, all of the clients coming in. I learned watching the close and the real estate sale. And, we had started at that time in New York, tax abatement had just come out. We worked at a property called the Horizon. It was the first of its kind in sort of an awkward location. And I was very, very blessed. I had my real estate license. They threw me on the floor in a minute. And I was one of 4 salespeople. My other sales associates were told they had a new client. They would come up to the front receptionist. They would look at these guys look not like bums, but anyway, 3 people turned their nose up. Now I, of course, I'm eager, I'm young, I have no concerns whatsoever. I ended up selling 4 really expensive residences to owners of a good portion of the South Street Seaport. So I'll never forget them. The developer came in to congratulate me, and I had a career. I went through sales training, which my company at that time, Marketing Directors, was huge at, and really proceeded to work my way up. Salesperson, I was studying advertising design at that time. So I was interested and curious on the sales and marketing front. And I worked my way up through management, a few different companies along the way. Goodstein Development was huge. I met my business partner of 20 years there. Went to work for the Sunshine Group with Lori at that time. Louise Sunshine was very, very dear to me and very much took me under her wing and taught me. So I worked for Louise Sunshine for 8 years, and then Louise decided to move to Florida. Actually, part of that 8 years was in Florida, and open up a Sunshine Group Florida, and she said, please take me there. So I did. Manhattanite, moved to South Florida, never thought it possible, but the rest is really history.
Yeah. It's interesting that I actually remember the marketing directors to this day, Adrian Alpert, who was the founder of the company, who I speak to from time to time, actually. So you opened Premier Sales Group with Lori Ingber, dear friend of both of ours. We worked together for many years, in 2000, and had a brilliant run together. I mean, something in the north of $4 billion in sales, something like that. Is that correct?
Yes.
Those were heady days. And then in 2018, I guess you guys mutually decided to part company. Why did that happen, and what lessons have you learned over the past handful of years since you and Lori separated?
Sure. So a couple of steps along the way, Lori and I opened Sunshine Group Florida and sold ourselves out of business. So when we opened Premier, we were encouraged to do that by a number of our clients. It wasn't always the heyday. We started at all different ups and downs in the real estate market, the real estate development, bang or bust, not just interest rates through the roof, developers not being able to get financing. We had a couple of years which were fantastic when people were waiting out the door, getting
Yeah.
taking check orders. We couldn't raise prices fast enough, but we had a lot of years we had to resell properties 3 times. We had sellouts at reservation. Developers couldn't get their property built because construction costs went through the roof, financing costs went through the roof. We had to go back to buyers and say, Mr. Buyer, we have to cancel your contract unless you pay us 30% more. And we had to sell them again when they went to contract for additional deposits. So the heyday wasn't all heyday. In 2018, we were very, very focused on our Premier Sales Group business. So while we had a lot of opportunities along the way for other developers to go, we were concerned about being able to maintain exactly the level of service and integrity and our personal hands-on. So we expanded, we definitely delegated, but we are always, one of us was always personally present for our developers. And, great lesson and great fault, because all of a sudden, what we moved to Florida to do, which Louise and Adrian Albert did in New York, was to create this sales and marketing arm directly for the developers. But in 2018, we started having competition. Fortune and Sotheby's, and all of a sudden, real estate agencies, brokerages say, well, I can do this too, Mr. Developer, not realizing as much from the salesperson agent side. It's different from developer sales on that level of service and priorities and not taking clients to another building. But we had a lot of competition, really fierce competition in 2018. And we were making money because we had a lot of backlash from buildings that were now getting complete for closings. So we said, let's go after some. So we went after some, but not enough. We couldn't grow at the rate of keeping up with our competition. So it was really just about, what's next? We shifted gears. We maintained our luxury end, but we were given opportunities. Those opportunities included, the Guy Harvey Outpost in Tarpon Springs. We included selling these luxury RV sites. I mean, they were $700,000 for concrete. And if you give them a little bit of service, they'll pay you $1 million. And they're parking their $3 million RV. So it was a new education for us. We don't know that world. But we decided to create a brand. And we really spent time creating this brand, and we sold out Tarpon Springs. They couldn't get it built, but we sold it out for ridiculous amount of money. And Lake Okeechobee ended up not going through, but it was going to be a sort of cross-country new brand, but it filled in the gap. So we were still providing services, brokerage, consulting, sales, and marketing for a few of our branded projects. And Len, as you know, we specialized in luxury branding.
Yes.
So
Yes.
3 Ritz-Carltons, so Key Biscayne, Miami Beach, Singer Island,
Yep.
Canyon Ranch, Brazilian Court. Many of these, we were fortunate enough to have your expertise. But it was really about learning and educating the brand. So it was a big shift to go to the Guy Harvey Outpost.
Yeah.
And also maintain that super high level of Premier Sales Group luxury. So we decided, let's go with an entry-level luxury division. So we diversified as we needed to, but we couldn't swing it. And my partner at that time, had some other priorities, family and stuff. We had an agreement that I would, take over operations running for Premier Sales Group.
Sure.
Which,
So,
as...
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. So lots of chatting, but it was all...
No, I wanted to ask the question that in your career, 20 plus years having your own, shop, and it continues, you must have, and I don't even know what the number you can share with the audience, how many agents that you brought on in the organization with as many different projects that you worked on, along with how did you select them? What was your benchmark? How did you evaluate whether they were experienced or inexperienced? But how did you, what was your criteria for bringing on agents into your organization?
It's not a written criteria, Len. I prefer training. I'm a huge fan of coaching and growing really talented people. And that talent is smart. It's a natural gift of gab. I laugh because some of my best sales agents are actually bartenders. But if you
I,
are smart, it's true. And you know a few of them.
I,
Um,
I want to
and they're
hear.
still in real estate, by the way.
It's
So
interesting. That's an interesting criteria for bringing on agents, but I kind of get
it's
it. But
not. It's really you know people, and if people, I try and teach all of my agents, especially new agents, stop talking. You listen. You learn so much, and you can really learn how to close a sale. You can gain information. Stop talking. I have hired and fired top 1% agents with their books and their high maintenance because I'd rather have two inexperienced, really smart people and train them. And I work with them and I followed up with them, and literally not just opening projects, but it's everything about how to shop a project, how to listen to your clients, how to show a cabinet in a kitchen.
yeah,
And if you really, someone taught me, I was very lucky, I had great mentors, and they opened up a whole world because there are so many better, newer agents, not today, because that's shifted a whole bunch when everyone joined the bandwagon, but it was really selective. So I've had as many as 68 agents working for me,
mm,
as few as seven at a time,
mm.
um, but always looking to make room for great people.
So it sounds like you would agree with it. People learn the most when teaching others, in terms of the give and take, not just in the interview process, but in the, being in business together process. Would you agree with that? That you learn more, you learn um, so much more when
Yes,
teaching.
yes.
Can you, can you share a little bit about an example of a new agent you might have brought on that and there must be a handful of them or more that you're not just proud of, but you're so impressed with even to this day.
Well, I have a lovely new agent at a beautiful project I'm selling, the Mandarin Oriental in Boca Raton, who's not so new now. We've worked together for 3 years, and she was dabbled in real estate. Not dabbled, she was licensed with a brokerage in Palm Beach. She worked in management on a Palm Beach condominium, but she was a spa manager. So
Oh,
she spoke hospitality, elegant and brilliant, but not having hands-on knowledge on the sale, on closing, on negotiating, on learning the value of understanding the competition and when to go for the ask, when to listen. And I've
mm.
had great, really, I'm proud, I'm smiling, I'm beaming because I'm super proud and honored to work with her and how she's grown.
um, Let me ask you a little bit. I want to pivot a little bit and talk about you're chairwoman of the Master Broker Forum in the Gold Coast. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And
Founding
and
chair.
you
We're 25 years now.
tell us a little bit about the Master Broker Forum because it's such an elite organization, and you're no small part of why it is so elite and so highly regarded in the residential real estate business.
And my greatest honor, actually. When I first moved from New York to Florida, I represented a project called the Gables Club. I met some really wonderful Miami. You remember that project? Met some very
I,
wonderful real estate agents, top producers,
yeah,
Jeannie Nicastri and Alicia Cervera Jr.
yes.
People that I unbelievably respect in this world. So when I went to grow my business and moved to Broward and launch Premier, Jeannie, and I was so busy, I didn't have 2 minutes to even have a thought about volunteering for one more possible thing because I couldn't breathe. They came up, they sat me down, and if you're sitting in a sandwich between Jeannie Nicastri and Alicia Cervera Jr., and they tell you that you have to open up this Broward division of Master Brokers Forum, which was founded following Hurricane Andrew in 1992.
Uh-huh.
This amazingly this amazing group of successful realtors, agents, top 1%, probably top 0.5%,
Mm.
were operating as competitors. They needed to work together. They had to find housing for their clients. Everyone was without water. It was absolutely insane. And Jeannie said, we have to work together. And they formed this group that is probably the most powerful in South Florida. It's not necessarily the top 1%. Not everybody gets in. It's by invitation. It's your top leaders. You have minimum, I don't know, 5 million a year for 5-year criteria. Not a lot, but you
Mm.
get vetted. You have to be approved and invited. There's a whole process for membership. And it's really an honor. So having that MBF logo is huge. And when Alicia and Jeannie said, Carolyn, we need this in Broward and you have to do it, I just said, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to put together the most fun board I can think of. Otherwise, no one's going to come. So hugely
No.
successful. And we did. And we grew. And we still, to this day, we're sounding boards. We call each other for information. If there's something I need in Miami, in 5 minutes, I can just pick up the phone or send an email to my MBF advisory team, my counter chairperson in Miami, Ileana. Everybody's just, we're representative of all brokerages, multiple developers, and we just really, we're a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, no, it's an elite organization. Do you do you have tons and tons of people requesting to become part of the Master Broker Forum? How do you evaluate these folks, and how do you make? Is there a board that determines who will be accepted and who will not be accepted?
There's a board, there's a Miami board, and there's a Broward board, depending on which chapter an individual is being invited to join. So you need 2 sponsors that are current active members from Master Brokers. You need to meet the um, qualifications income wise, but you must have high ethical standards you could not have had. And in real estate, there are a million things that can happen in transactions
Mhm.
if 2 or more individuals on the board, and the board in Miami, I think we're 14, I think there may be 12 that sit on
Mhm.
the board and quarterly review the application. So they check your numbers um, from your income stats, but then there's an evaluation process. So there need to be recommendations. Um, and it's invitation. Once you're
Yeah,
invited, you join. I mean, it's not so much to join, but it's the principle and the honor.
of
And
course,
there are a
of
lot
course.
of benefits that come with that.
So, how many total Master Broker Forum agents, realtors, brokers are in the organization approximately between both chapters?
I'm not sure current. I think Miami has 250 or 300.
Yeah.
We are 150 to 175,
Okay.
which
No,
is
I know it's
Broward and Palm Beach.
sure. It's truly an elite organization and
Mhm.
rather coveted as well. It's great
And
that
we have
people.
fun. We really have a blast together.
That's
Smart,
great.
wonderful, good people that are a lot of fun.
Tell me a little bit about your observation in the business today, pre-COVID, COVID, post-COVID, in terms of the relationship of agents to projects, developers to brokerage, brokerage towards agents. It's been quite the whirlwind. I'm curious as to your observation in that 5, 6 year arc in the business because it was rather dramatic in so many ways.
I think it's going to be more traumatic in 2024. I think the good and the bad. So I'll start. We've been through a really fun cycle. We started building. Developers were going nuts, building, increasing. They were treating brokerages. I didn't see such loyalty, but whether it was Douglas Elliman or Sotheby's or Fortune, it just seemed that there was, it wasn't as much a work together as it was just a sale, like a retail order taking. Who can get the most money the fastest? Who's got the most international market, the ISG world? I think it was really product specific. If agents and brokerages were really smart and could tailor and adapt as the market was changing, COVID hit and there's no inventory because everybody's gobbling up everything, single family homes, condos, even pre-construction condos. If they could get it now, they would pay a premium 40% higher. And we ran out of inventory. I mean, I sold the Mandarin Oriental when I started here. I think they were 20% sold. We went to 60% sold at a price per square foot that must have been 60% higher than where they started. You could not increase enough. And this is a project that's still a year out. And in COVID, it was 2 and 3 years out, but the premiums were so there for branded. The world is shifting. So from Miami, Broward, Palm Beach, the world started looking for larger 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms. They're moving their families, they're relocating their companies. There were not enough 3 bedrooms and 4 bedrooms. So that market went through the roof.
Yeah.
Then the investor market said, wow, I can rent these out. If there was an Airbnb opportunity, so the investor market, they couldn't make money anyplace else. They're finding new avenues to make money. Different pockets in locations, I think, based on what inventory, what supply was available at that time. Interest rates also were 2%,
Yeah.
3%. You couldn't buy. I mean, I've had cash my whole life. I'm like, I'll get a mortgage. Why not get a mortgage? So it was a little bit nuts. The world has changed. Then we went through we lost some international markets, but our national market was still huge, but I still have no inventory. Developers now can't get financing. They're killing each other to buy land. They're overpaying for land, but they can't get reasonable financing. They could get financing, but at what number? We had labor shortages, we had construction material shortages. It just became more and more challenging. So inventory again is shrinking. It's stabilized now. I feel like we're still super shy in inventory, particularly in the 3 and 4 bedrooms. And I believe that to be from Miami, Broward, and Palm Beach. Developers can't build fast enough to get closings in this time frame, even with interest rates higher. I believe we'll have a little bump in interest rates before the end of the year, where everyone's expecting that. But mid next year, I believe it to be true. Yeah. Interest rates are going to start falling. And inventory is all of a sudden going to become available. And I think there's going to be frenzy. Next year, I anticipate a really great jump and spike in the real estate market. And I would say over $1 million.
Do you see?
And on the high end, you can't build it fast enough.
Yeah, no, I know that's, so it's wild. Do you see this pivot, this positive change in the second half of 24 or earlier?
I always think change is positive. I think we have to adapt and take advantage of it. So I think you have to be ready for it. And having great real estate agents, having your eyes on what inventory is coming up. If you're aware and watch, you have to really track and see how sales are going, see what supply is coming, see what's proposed, and you keep an eye. It's hugely positive. If you get swept away, you're going to be back like the 200,000 agents that all of a sudden decided to get their real estate license when everything was taken off. And now they're members of 20-person teams. They're going to be the first people to get fired. All the they're all getting trimmed. All of the extra people that are not producing, they're all going to be gone.
Yeah, so that's an interesting point. I wanted to touch on that. So there are a lot of folks who say that this era or this period of time will be a weaning out of the agents that just do not produce. And developers that go out and launch projects are very particular about not just the brokerage firms that they bring on to represent them, but then the individuals that the brokerage firms offer up for those people to be on the floor to sell. Let me ask you, Carolyn, and it's been something that's been going on for a while now, and maybe you have some insight into the following question. It seems to me over the last 5-6 years, plus or minus, that there's been this creation of silos between brokerage, developers, and agents, whereby you would think that they would all work hand in glove, that developers are responsible for creating and producing relevant residences for the marketplace. Brokerage firms are there to represent it and offer up the information to the agents, and for agents to access that information, you would think easily, and then to be able to deploy it to their prospects and clients easy. But that's not what's happening. Silos have been created whereby, in many cases, these stakeholders are working at cross purposes. What's your thought on that? And if I'm right, if that's your observation as well, why is this happening?
So, Len, I would tell you there are exceptions to the rule. It's going to depend on the developer, it's going to depend on the brokerage and the agency relationship. I find a lot of the agents are sort of hopping from one firm to another based on what their product inventory is. So I think that some developers decided to open up in-house, which makes a lot of sense. They would have their own team.
Yeah.
They can promote, they can control, they're not paying some outside brokerage, additional costs. And you have the question of loyalty. Is this agent working for XYZ firm selling someone else's product, or am I 100% the only thing they're focused on? They offset expenses on that regard. I don't know that I'd like to say there's a global, and I'd poo-poo all the brokerages, and developers should go in-house and hire a particular specific sales and marketing type for their project.
Sure.
But I think that it really depends on the agents on site. It's not dependent on the brokerage, but it's dependent on the leadership of that brokerage.
Okay.
And I think it varies, by the way, from West Palm Beach to Broward to Miami. And I think it's also about the pool of people they have access to. I don't think that all of these great brokerages can deliver for outstanding agents on 60 buildings. They just can't.
Yeah,
So,
that's good note.
my goal, and I tell my developers, and what I always try to be, and I try to teach my agents, make yourself invaluable to your clients. How you
So that's
do that, it changes, but if you don't make yourself invaluable, don't do what everyone else is doing. Don't do
yeah.
what 50 other agents are doing. Be different.
So that's a really good note. In terms of these, let's call them turbulent times, how do you guide your agents? How do you advise them how to distinguish themselves from so many others that are chasing maybe the same clients, the same business?
It varies project by project. It varies agent by agent, and I force them to search for what that is. So I start with the stop talking and start listening.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with brilliant people smarter than yourself, and find a way that's going to be, if everyone else is heading straight, make a right turn. So
Good
it's
note.
not just about looking for new markets. If you're in New York and you want to go to Chicago, you have to really be smart. You're back to, is an age demographic. What's the populace coming? What new occupations are here? Who's relocate? You have to really evaluate each product and find a way to stand out. And I task my new agents to do that. And I'm a sounding board. I'll give them ideas, but they have to run with it.
Well said, Carolyn. So, I want to ask you the following question, in that, and I've asked this before, that life is not about what happens to you. Life is about how you respond to what's happened to you. How would you help the audience understand moments in your life that that lesson came to its fruition in terms of how you responded to something that was not particularly wonderful or positive?
So, I am not so young. I'm 57. I have had challenges, as everyone else has, but I've had a lot of opportunities. So, if you can seek an opportunity to shift direction, and it's not just about market changes. When we thought at Premier we just don't have enough new business, all of a sudden we had this opportunity of, we can sell luxury RV spaces. We thought, are you nuts? We can't do that. But by the way, we found the really great opportunity. We matched really great, super wealthy, by the way, people. So I think it's about being able to shift. I think it's about all of the things that are sent to you. It's business wise, it's developers that don't pay bills, it's finding banks that all of a sudden want to hire you. I mean, you just have to always be looking, and you always have to look to expand your business, even if it's a little section at a time.
So, do you think that moving forward into, let's say, the second half of 24, that there will be more announcements of, we hear all the time about new projects, but to your point earlier, that it's very hard for developers to get construction financing. Are you imagining that even though developers go out and announce a project, until they get a shovel in the ground, it's really not a go project per se? Do
I
you
agree.
believe so? Do you believe that in the second half of 24, we'll be able to see more announcement that the shovel is in the ground because the construction financing has been announced?
Absolutely. And by the way, so we talk about construction financing. It has been available, but it's been at 7% and 8%.
Yeah.
It's been, really difficult for developers to move forward to make sense of the project. They're paying a little bit more for land, but all of the projects that have either started at a little trickle, I think you're going to see a big explosion. I think you'll see new announcements. I think you're going to see buildings actually getting built. And I think you'll see new opportunities, new developments. There are new, all the rumors and all the side deals and the assemblages that are getting, I'm so part of that commercial world, and I'm watching it, and I'm impressed. I'm impressed at the creativity. I'm impressed that developers have an army of commercial real estate brokers that are aggressively making offers and putting things together that no one thought could possibly be. Deals that were talked about for 20 years are now
Yeah.
coming to market.
Yeah. Interesting.
So I think
So,
it's going to explode.
well, we're going to keep our fingers crossed. So, besides your professionalism and your stunning track record, um, you've always been known, I guess, in the business, or at least certainly people that I know as well, for you're tenacious in terms of just driven, and a lot of agents, brokers, realtors hear lots of no's before they hear a yes. Tell us a little bit about the no's that you've heard in your career that you were able to turn them into yeses and closes. Any particular
I
one
don't
come to
know of
light?
a no that I haven't been able to turn to a yes.
Wow.
So
There must be some wonderful, even if it's off script, moment where you just thought this deal was dead, and then whoops, you were able to pull it off.
So, a couple of those for a developer that we know from Palm Beach. we were able, I can't even really, I don't know that I want to share all my news. I had to take this back. So I mean, I think it's about being able to shift direction. We were able to partner on the Brazilian court. We were able to really sell some very extraordinary residences that were 100% no, 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 no to
Yeah.
billionaire clients. And all of a sudden they call and say, Carolyn, hop on a plane. And they're very demanding and they actually will sign a contract as opposed to now it goes through 10 levels of attorneys and maybe you'll see them and shake a hand. We were able to shift directions. I did receive a no from that very same developer for a really pocket in my backyard in the Keys for this really extraordinary project that I wanted to sell for a lot of money. And we were turned down because they brought in a firm that provided some equity. I can't
Okay.
fight with that, but I was
No.
pissed
Yeah.
because I didn't get over it. It just, you just don't. So you go looking for a competing project and you say, well, I can do better. And you move forward.
So let me hear a little bit about your why. This is about Carolyn Ellert's why. Life choices.
Life
This this
choices.
this business.
Well,
This business. You could have done so many different things. Obviously, you're smart, you're attractive, you're polished. You could have made all kinds of career choices, and yet here we find ourselves so many years later, having worked together for so many years, um, now kind of reflecting on the why of Carolyn Ellert. How'd you get here? Why this?
I think it was accidentally teased in front of me, and I really got so like hungry animal, and I thought I could do this, and I can do it better than so many people.
Hmm.
And I learn every day, and there are many others that are smarter and better than I. But I thought, when I look at lazy people and I look at not smart, I look at so much. I shop real estate, I buy real estate, I flip real estate, and I look at the inadequacy. And you think if you just applied a little bit of extra to the ordinary, you could be huge. So that's been my philosophy, and I'm hungry. I love it. I have the bug. I can't explain it. I like to fix. I like to market it. I studied advertising design. I mean, from typography class to I love creating the market. I love when you can start without a building, and a developer says, what should I do with this piece of land? And you have to start from zero and create, let's do something that no one else is doing, and let's give them amenities that no one else is doing. And I learned from Louise, if you do all of that, you can charge 3 times as much and the buyers eat it up. And you learn to find your nuances. And I really am quite addicted to the process.
So it's interesting you're mentioning Louise's name. I worked with her for many years, as you know, in New York and down here a bit, of course, in Miami. Louise was known for her mentoring only women, only women. I don't think that there was a man in that organization for decades, other than maybe in the back office, that at least I was aware of. My question to you is that if the National Association of Realtors states that there's over, I don't know, close to 70% of agents, realtors that are women in this business. Why do you think that's so?
I think it's the greatest occupation in the world for mothering children. You can work from home. You can have a career. You can bring your children on listings. It's the greatest maternal opportunity in that regard. I think I don't, I can't speak for the entire nation, National Association of Realtors, but, I have friends, we talk about why they started their career. And I sit in, when I worked at Compass, I listen to some top why they started their career, and they left, senior managing positions at huge corporations because they got pregnant. I mean, such a logical, it's such a logical, it's easy to do in that regard. Now the world has shifted so much that anybody can do it, really. It's men or women, men are raising their children. I think of the ability to build a business and control somewhat of your hours, at least initially.
Yeah.
I think is a huge flexible opportunity to have a very significant, and there's no top end. Keep in mind, there is no top end of real estate. You don't have a salary. You're not up here. You can make as much money as you put into it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Let me ask you something a little bit off script. So, what, if anything, keeps you up at night?
Well, I planning my next vacation now, Molly. No, I mean, I think that I always think about family. I always think about the future. It doesn't keep me up at night, Len. I'm at a point in my life where I'm hungry. I want to make money, but I get referrals on WhatsApp, and I'm only taking my personal referrals, and I'm so happy to do it. And I make money, and I trust these clients, and they trust me, and it's great. But I don't need to take every inquiry just because. And I'm not really up at night. I'm sort of, we're at a point where we're always looking for new opportunities. What will keep me up at night is not having something that's going to keep my brain so challenged. I can't be bored. So that keeps me up at night. But I don't know. We don't have health issues. Our family's in good shape. We go boating. I fish. I mean,
Yeah, I know you're a
winning
master
a fishing
fisherman.
tournament. I don't know that master, but I enjoy it.
No,
And I never thought I would. But
I know this. I know this that my audience does not know that you and your husband Mark are really avid, big fishermen people. Yeah, is that correct?
I'm a fisherman by marriage, but I have gotten, certainly the hunger for it. I mean, I have flown to see clients in Panama to sign contracts at Tropic Star Lodge. So, I mean, it's a new world for me, also for real estate, because all of these successful boaters and yachtsmen and tournament fishermen come up in their gazillion dollar with all of their crew, and they're talking to me about signing their new house deal. So I feel it's fun. I'm in my shorts, I'm in fishing gear, and they say grab a line, and it's great.
Yeah, it's
So
opened up a whole new avenue
it's
of
another market. So when I tell everyone, always look, whether you're at the grocery store, you're in yoga class, I mean, whatever it is you're doing, it's just keep an eye.
um, well said. We're going to wrap it up, Carolyn, but I do want to again, thank you. We go back so many years over so many, bumps in the road, as it were. Good times and lean times, but they were always exciting. And what's really interesting about you, and I think that everybody would kind of gets it about you. Your enthusiasm and positivity is infectious, and that's so important in the sales process. Aside from being smart and in the know, being able to kind of communicate that is critical in the sales process and in life. Let's put it like that. Together. So I want to thank you again for your time as always, and make sure that you send my best wishes to Lori when you speak to her again.
I
Um,
sure will. And Len,
okay.
I'm honored. I think it's really great. We have so many stories. I wish we could talk about all of our developments and the things that we did differently when no one else was doing it. I mean, each development was something new. So
Yeah,
it really that's the
yeah, it was a
infectious part.
yeah, it was a very creative time, and I was so happy to be a part of it with characters like you and Laurie. It was exciting. It was an exciting time.
Fun
Carolyn,
team.
thanks again so much for your time today, and very, very happy for your continued success, of course.
Thank you, Len.